All right, and we are live with another episode of Mentor Minutes. Now, before I dive into this episode, I did want to give a shout out for tomorrow's episode, 12:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm going to be going over the book, The One Thing by Gary Keller. A fantastic book. Don't want to say it's going to change your life, but it's one of those books that could. And it is absolutely fantastic, some great takeaways. So I'll be discussing the overarching themes of the book, the main takeaways from it, and then some of the things that that jumped out at me that could be translatable for frontline leaders and people that are dealing with some struggles and some challenges in the workplace out there. So again, check that out tomorrow, 12:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll be talking about The One Thing. I know it'll be worth your while. Now, I'm just going to dive into this particular episode. If you are coming to this late, go ahead, drop down into the comment section, leave your question there, and I will start off the next episode with that. That's where I've got a couple of these questions in here that I'm going to dive right into. So, good to see you here from Kentucky, Tammy. Very nice. Other side of the United States from where I'm at right now, in very hot and toasty Las Vegas. Our first question that I didn't get a chance to get into yesterday, Helen, so good to see you here again, is from Cindy, and it was, she heads up a bunch of contractors, exterior and interior contractors, and so in this case, the project manager for the exterior ran into delays, not surprising, but has really put and deflected the blame onto Cindy and her interior team. So the question is how do you deal with that? With the customer and with that particular individual. So what I would do in this case, Cindy, is tackle it from an ownership standpoint first and foremost. So I want you to meet with the owner, meet with whoever your mutual boss is, and say, okay, hey, in regards to this particular project, this is where we're at right now. We have fallen behind. The customer's pissed, and the customer is put it on me. Now, I can go ahead and deal with that. So you go ahead and just take that on. But I want to see what we can learn from this. The key in all of this is to get learning. From the ownership management standpoint of things, you want to learn from it. When you have a customer failure in your business, and this is for everybody that's out there, there's two audiences that you need to deal with and two stakeholders that you need to deal with. Jason, so good to see you here. JG, very nice. Two stakeholders. One is the business and one is the customer. All right. So first and foremost, handle the business aspect of it. I see you here, Sandy. So handle the business aspect with the owner and with the exterior project manager and say, hey, so we've got an issue with such and such house. The customer's pissed because there's delays. So the question is what happened with the delays and how can I perhaps work? So what you're going to do is you're going to throw the olive branch out there. How can my interior team perhaps work better? Or are there ways to structure the exterior work so that the interior team can get a head start on a certain aspect of it, a certain room? It could be that they can work on the downstairs while the upstairs is being finished. Something along those lines. And it might not be something that's going to work. You may already know that there isn't really a solution to this, but you're extending that olive branch. And what you're doing is you're calling out that blaming behavior. You have to call out when other people blame you for things. Because if you don't, it becomes the easiest way for them to deflect any failures that they have. So you have to call it out if you want to make it stop. The best way to call it out is in an open and honest, transparent meeting where you're extending olive branches, trying to find a mutual solution for the betterment of everybody that's out there, and reference the overall goals. Hey, we all want the projects to get finished on time and with the customer thrilled. Now, that's not going to happen in this case. So what can we do? Are there ways for us to be more flexible? Are there ways for us to work together in regards to these things so that we can kind of mitigate any of those problems? There's going to be delays. You know there's going to be delays. So how can you be flexible and work with it? But bring it up to the owner first and foremost. The second thing is with the customer. And having a huge amount of hospitality experience here in Vegas, I will tell you that the number one trick that I used when talking to a customer is empathizing with them. Hey, if I was in your shoes, I'd be pissed. I wouldn't want to delay in this particular process. So I completely understand it. And it's not how we want to work, but this is what we're going to do about it. And so get them focused on action. Okay, you don't want to, play a game of tennis or ping pong with blame and kick it back over to the exterior people. Now you can subtly get at that. That's one of those obvious things, Cindy, that if the customer is going to easily understand, they can kind of read between the lines. Well, we couldn't get started on this because we needed this and this. You can kind of be a little bit subtle. Don't throw blame. Okay, be careful about that, but you can be kind of subtle in giving yourself a little bit of a pass, but get focused on action. So empathize with the customer first. Hey, I know you're pissed. I'd be just as pissed, if not even more so. I understand how this all works. And then get them focused on, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to try to get through these things. All right. Then Pat brings up the feel, felt, found, which is a fantastic way of doing it. So many things can be overturned that way. I'm glad I'm getting lots of props from everybody that's out there that's dealt with these particular situations. But that's the way to move. Get them focused not on the past, not on what's going wrong. Get them focused on what's going to be right, and get them focused on the actions moving forward, and that will get them out of that stinking thinking that they're in right now. So we've had some people jump on. I've got one more question I want to get to that I didn't get a chance to get to yesterday, but if you have anything going on, any struggles, any frustrations with employees, with your boss, with clients, with peers, whatever it is, drop it down into the comment section there, and I'll go ahead and tackle those right away here. The other one was from William, and it is, how do you engage and encourage cross-collaboration in remote teams of part-time workers? And it's in the education industry. But when we talk about remote workers, so if you want engagement, what you have to do is you have to have a bias for communication. So a lot of times when we're working closely with individuals in an office setting, we might batch some of our feedback, or we might withhold it. We might not discuss a particular feedback thing that we want to address with them, just because we know we're going to have more of them. You want to have a bias for communication when dealing with remote teams, because you don't have those face-to-face interactions. You don't have those random collisions, as they're called in Silicon Valley, at the water cooler or the coffee machine or whatever else. So you want to have a bias for communication. And what you want to do with that communication is you want to try to move it up what I call the communication ladder. Okay, the bottom of the communication ladder is your texting, and then you move into Skype and Slacking, then you move into emails, then you move into phone calls, and the highest part of communication, highest part of the ladder, is face-to-face communication. So instead of sending an email to your team, if you want to improve engagement with remote teams, instead of sending an email, make it a phone call. Instead of making a phone call, make it a video conference. And so I recommend, from a leadership standpoint, you meet with your team face-to-face over video conference every single week. I know it can be a time commitment, and if that's the real breakdown for you with that, drop it into the comments. I have a response in regards to the time commitment of one-on-ones on a weekly basis. Okay, well, I'll just get into it right now. Those of you that don't do one-on-ones because you don't feel like they have time, you have time for it, realize that the first one-on-ones that you have are going to be long. They are going to be half an hour, 45 minutes, something like that. But what happens when you communicate consistently with your team is that time comes down. So the second time it's only half an hour. The third time it's only 20 minutes. By the fourth time you're down to 15 minutes, fifth time it's 10 minutes, and it's only as long as you really want it to be at that point, because you've established a baseline of communication. You've gotten rid of all that laundry that had built up before. And so make the investment, do those one-on-ones on a weekly, bi-weekly basis, and plan on doing them down the road, and you'll see that it happens quicker. But the big issue with remote teams is communication and is engagement. All right, and you tackle that engagement with as much communication as possible and moving up the ladder. Now, if you want to talk about collaboration with remote teams, and this works inside the office as well, if you want something, ask for it. In this case, you can suggest it. So if you have projects, if you have tasks even that need to get done, direct people to work with other individuals. You know who would be good with that? Let me partner you up with Cameron. He can really help you out with that. All right, it's a great way to work teamwork in the office as well. Don't hand out tasks to one individual, hand it to two. Now, I realize that they're going to split the task, go their separate ways, work on it, and then bring it together. But you are creating more collaboration. What you also do in that case is you leverage the prior discussion in regards to communication. Hey, I want you to get on the phone, get on the video conference with them and talk it through. Start talking about the fact that communication is better in a face-to-face medium than over the phone, than through email. Everybody's had that instance. You can always use this example. Have you ever sent an email out and you meant it one way and somebody took it a completely different way? Yeah, duh. Everybody has had that instance, all right? It doesn't happen as much over the phone, and it doesn't happen as much in face-to-face communication as well. So, up the communication, William. That's the way to tackle some of this engagement aspects of things, and collaboration. Start putting people together to work together in teams, and I think you'll find that that's really helpful. All right, diving into some of the questions that I've received so far. So anybody that's got any out there, go ahead, drop them down. I will get right to them here. And I got the Philippines online, very nice. Rosalie, good to see you here. Getting down to the first question here. And I'm doing great, Eslam. Thanks for asking. And Patty, always good to see you here. Clarissa has our first question. And if you've got any questions, any frustrations, drop them down. We'll go ahead and get them tackled right here. A call center Clarissa's question is, call center motivator, please. We don't sell anything and people come to us as the only resource for their needs. We hire massively when we have the need. We lay them off when their need is no longer there. It's hard to keep people engaged in this type of environment. What do you recommend? Well, for those that don't know, I managed call centers for quite some time. And one of the first things to look to do, Clarissa, is look to change your... this gets into more structural, but when you have those big ebbs and flows in business, and this can work in a retail environment, that sort of thing, it's worthwhile to have a certain percentage of your population be part-time. And that way what you can do is you can flex them up from, say, 15 to 20 hours to 30 hours in your busy time, and then flex them back down. And so you have a more consistent workforce, and then they can get promoted into full-time if that's something they're interested in. But look to have, I had a large call center, and we had 30 to 40% of our population was part-time workers because we had need for that flexibility. And there's people that just want part-time work. I dealt with that yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. A wonderful woman who wanted part-time work and was having trouble finding it out there. So that can be something that provides a little bit of consistency. What you can also do from a motivation standpoint is you can have people call out. I really like this concept. It is, darn it, I'm forgetting the fun name for it. Well, we'll say the killer whale and the donkey, all right? So you nominate somebody else for the killer whale of the day. What was the best call? So you're providing people with resources, all right? But people talk, people can hear the conversation next to them, and they talk in the break room about calls that they had. You can nominate somebody else, not yourself, nominate another coworker for a fantastic effort that they gave in regards to a call, or providing great service, that sort of thing. That can be one way to call out those things. For those of you that have easy metrics, I love posting the metrics up and reporting on those. But if we talk about those calls, that can be a huge factor on those things. So that might be one way that I look to tackle motivation. Also, not for nothing, make sure that you are having consistent days where people are able to have fun. One of the cheats that I did was dress up days. And it could simply be every other week. There was one day, maybe a Friday, maybe a Wednesday, something like that, where everybody dressed in a particular color. And it was interesting how things went along, where something simple like that, everybody's rolling their eyes out there right now. Really? That was something that was fun for everybody, is everybody wears, red today, or blue today, or green, or polka dots, or stripes. Seriously, we kept going with this. Because what happened is after a couple of times, all of a sudden I've got people that are, wearing 50s poodle skirts because it's red. I've got people wearing certain uniforms that they had. A person comes in an old band uniform. Somebody wears their Letterman's jacket from high school. It's interesting how those little things like that can really help motivate people and add an air of fun to the environment. And that helps you with that retention as well, Clarissa. That's one of those factors that affects that as well. So look for those simple things. It can be a potluck. Don't let a holiday go by without some sort of fun environment taking place. That is what makes people more satisfied and interested in coming to work, and they're going to bring more of themselves to it. Those are those simple baselines of motivation. But look to have people call other individuals out. That's a great way of building that good culture, and it's a great way for you to recognize good performance if you don't have those hard metrics as well. Good question, tough question to start us out there. The next one comes from Eslam, and it's, what is the most effective way that if we want something in business, I should ask for it? For example, promotions or hiring. So, Eslam, you want to ask for those things. So let's say you're asking for, let's say you're not asking for a promotion, all right, but you would pop into your boss's office and say, hey, just so you know, I am interested in moving up, very happy here. If there's anything that I can do to make myself a more attractive candidate for the next promotion, let me know. If there's any projects, I'd love to take those projects that come up. So you ask, simple way of doing that in that way. Now, if we talk about hiring, so let's say you want to have more staff, you need more staff, all right? Well, you need to get familiar with what are the triggers for the decision makers. So are you going to your boss? Are you going to the chief financial officer to get that approved? What is, who are you talking to? And what do they care about? All right, I can go to the vice president of sales, and all they're going to want to hear about is how one more person will allow me to see more accounts and drive more business. But if I take that same conversation to the chief financial officer, they're going to want to know, what is the cost? How could we mitigate this cost? How could we find another solution that doesn't cost the company any money? They're focused on the cost aspect of it. So when you're asking for something, be clear on what the other person is most interested in. It's a negotiating technique. But get clear on what they care about, and then phrase your discussions in ways that address what they care about. So no, we've already got people maxed out. Now I could bring, so mirroring this with Clarissa's, I could hire another full-time worker, but what I'd like to do is I'd just like to hire a part-time worker during this seasonal time. And if we turn any full-time people over, I will hire part-time into that so that we can start getting a mix. But you're talking about it in a way that addresses cost. With the chief financial officer, that would be what they care about. What does your boss care about? What do the decision makers care about? And make sure that you are addressing that. They don't care about, lack of a better term, they don't care about what you're most interested in. They're focused on what they're interested in. So address that and be mindful of that, Eslam, and that should help you out. Hiring tasks and trust in a part. So when you talk trust, that's a great one. And I am caught up on questions here. So if you have any questions, drop down in the comment section. I'll answer it just about in real time. So if we talk about trust, all right, and this is why I generally recommend starting small, starting with simple projects that might be out there, because you build that trust, all right? If you want trust, you can volunteer updates. So, hey, I'd love to take this on. I know I've never done this before, but I've got this and this and this. What I'd like to do is start working on it, and then I can update you tomorrow and the next day and the next day. So you keep them in the loop. So they don't have to trust you to finish it. They have to trust you to take it to the next step. And if there's an issue, well, then we address it from there. So take it in bite-sized chunks from there. So you mitigate the risk to them of trusting you as much as possible. Updates are a great way of doing that. Getting somebody else, if I run into any problems, then I'll just go see Cameron. So letting them know who you're going to go to. So what are you going to do? That's another way to mitigate that risk, is that showing the understanding of what you're going to do if you do run into problems. Okay? So those are a couple of things when we talk trust. That's one of those things. But it is built over time, and it is built with a bunch of smaller and smaller tasks as it builds and builds and builds. If you have a weak manager that covers you, yeah. Hire through attempts before hiring into the company. And Pat, that's a great way. Some people like to do that. I've done that before as well. I've done it both ways. And I want to say I actually don't have a preference one way or another. There is a way of mitigating that risk a little bit through the temp agencies. Temp agencies are pricey in their own respect, though. So that's the only other thing that factors into that just a little bit, is oftentimes you are paying more for that particular luxury. Eslam has but I love the suggestion. And hey, everybody that's out there, I love it when you drop down in the comment section and give your thoughts on it. It might ping my brain on something else that I want to throw in there, but I don't pretend to have all the answers. And these are great suggestions as well, working through a temp agency. That's also a great organization if you're having trouble with hiring, bringing in a recruiter who can filter candidates to you as well is something that can be timely. There's a cost, again, that's associated with any of this. None of that stuff is free, but it can be something that helps you get into different markets and sourcing different candidates. So that's another way of doing that as well. But I've done that a number of times where I've brought somebody on a temporary basis and then hired them full time after 6 months or whatever the contract is with the recruiting company. If your boss doesn't cover you on any of the issues that are running up, I try to let you know that, yes, that's unfortunate. No, they shouldn't be just not covering you. They should be there to support you. I totally get it. Moscow, good to see you here, by the way. That's as it is. But look at it as a challenge too. What can you do to cover yourself? You're going to, over the course of your career, Eslam, eventually rise, hopefully, to a position where there isn't anybody to cover for you. And so you have to cover for yourself. And so what are the reasons why you did something? So you ran into issues, all right? What was the reason that ran into those issues? What was the decision that you made? And why did you make it? If you get clear on the reasoning for your decisions, all right? Why did I decide to do this? What was this in alignment with? Was it in alignment with our goals as an organization? That's why getting clear on the goals of the organization, what matters to the organization, is so important, is it informs your decisions so that you can make the right actions. I had that, many times I made decisions that were a couple of steps above my pay grade. But I was comfortable making those decisions because I was comfortable with the reason that I was making that decision. I may have had prior knowledge of how the vice president handled this particular situation in the past, so I could leverage that. I could make sure to leverage the fact that it's in line with what our goals are, with what our priorities are, in addressing those particular areas. So if there was ever any sort of blowback in regards to that, I at least had the reason why. And so I could at least explain my actions. And hey, maybe they were wrong. They never were. I never ran into a problem with that, by the way. But if they were, then I go ahead and correct it. But I don't want to say I have an excuse. I have a reason. And that reason was flawed for whatever particular factor. So get in touch with that. That can be very helpful as far as addressing concerns that you have when your boss isn't covering for you. Away from when you used to do changing careers like CS, to HR or a training team in the same company. Yeah, so Eslam, you absolutely can consider if your passion happens to be in another direction or you get burnt out, say with customer service. And so you look for your opportunities in HR, in training, in other areas. Look to take the skill sets that you have and the knowledge of the organization that you have and look to do a horizontal move. See how that might work. Talk to that boss and see if you can shadow, appear in a neighboring department, but absolutely make yourself available for that. There were positions that opened up in marketing. There were positions that opened up in IT where people showed an interest in bringing me on board for those particular things. That wasn't where my passion lied at that particular moment. But there are those opportunities, and there should be those opportunities. And that's a great way. If you're not satisfied with where you're at, look for where you can make a lateral move within the same organization, keeping your vacation time and having that security blanket kind of being in the same organization. That can be something that's helpful. JG has our next question, and it's: what advice would you have for someone who is coming in from the outside and attempting to manage a group of employees who have worked together doing things a certain way for years, especially when you are attempting to bring about needed change? And JG, I can almost have some of my regular followers here better ask for forgiveness than permission, and that's the case. Not always, Pat, but absolutely that was the way. If you have good enough reasons, then you can ask for forgiveness and not permission. JG, what you want to do is you want to come in humbly to that new position, okay? Come in realizing that you don't understand everything. You don't understand the organization. You don't understand all the processes. You don't understand all of the obstacles. And the way that you demonstrate that humbleness to your team and the way you get the information that you need to make the changes that you need to make is you talk to every single one of your direct reports. And if you have people below that, I'd talk to them too. So you ask them 5 simple questions. What do you see working right in the organization right now or the department? What do you see working wrong? Or what do you see that's going right? What do you see that's going wrong? Where are there opportunities we need to take advantage of? Where are there problems that we need to fix? And how can I help you do a better job? Those 5 questions will give you a ton of information. It is the best use of your time as far as information gathering, understanding how the operation works, understanding where the obstacles are. Now, what you do with that information is you take the low-hanging fruit, the easy suggestions that they have. They might have some very important and very big ones, but you tackle the easy things first. And so preferably you talk to somebody, and if they have something that can be fixed that day, you fix it that day. Because what that does is that shows the team that you are interested in their feedback enough to actually take action on it. And when you show them that, you are going to get more feedback and more suggestions. There is nothing better to do when you first come on board than gathering information. And the best people to get it from are the people that are on the front lines doing the work. All right, so spend a couple of weeks, preferably you tackle it in the first week, but that's not always possible, but spend a couple of weeks meeting with every single team member, asking them those 5 questions. What do you see going right in the organization? What do you see going wrong in the organization? Where are there opportunities we need to take advantage of? Where are there problems we need to fix? And how can I help you do a better job? Use that information, work with that over the next 2 weeks. Spend 2 weeks handling that low-hanging fruit. And that will give you a bunch of information to work on. Then after those 4 weeks, go back to the team and ask them again, because after they see all that you've done with their feedback, you will get more. But then you will have created buy-in and you will have created ownership amongst the team, and you will have given yourself information to make the changes that you want to make work for you and be more successful as it works through. Now, I have a bunch of people jumping on, and I actually gave these questions. Somebody listened to this, tuned into an episode maybe a couple weeks ago. She followed up in direct message and wanted those 5 questions again. She's emailing them out to her team today, and she's promised to get back to me with some of those results. As I bump the camera here. But it works. And what about a month ago, and have it on my monitor. Yeah, and Jennifer, I'm glad. But everybody that's out there, you don't have to be brand new in a position to do this. Ask the players, not the press box. Pat, I like that one. I had not heard that one. Ooh, I'm going to use that. But even if you've been in a position forever, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, do the same thing. Ask your team what's going on. Nobody can tell you better what's going on in an operation with the customers, with the clients, with any of the peers that they're dealing with than those people. You will get a bunch of information. You can use that information, tackle the low-hanging fruit first, then start tackling bigger stuff, and then go back to them with questions again. And that will be absolutely huge for you. So I hope that works out for you, JG. I know it's worked for others, and I'll be completely honest. I'm going to be shooting some videos this weekend, and this is the number one thing. I'm going to probably try to go through maybe my 10 greatest tips as far as leadership is concerned. And number one is these 5 questions. If I could get every leader out there to ask these 5 questions of their team members, there would be dramatic changes in each one of those operations if they took action on those. So great, I love that question. If you have any questions, drop them down into the comment section here. I'll handle them pretty much in real time. I did come across something in the roadmap that, I'll be completely honest, I completely forgot that I had included in this particular book. But it was talking about teamwork and giving your team a voice in that teamwork. So engaging, and it goes along with these questions. And I talk about 3 questions that you want to ask your team. If you want better teamwork, if you want something, ask about it. So ask the team, are there ways we could work better as a team in your own department? Are there ways that we can work better? Ask the team members that. Maybe once you've gone through a couple of rounds of those 5 questions I mentioned before, start tackling teamwork. Is there a way that we could work better as a team? They've got ideas. They've seen some of the problems. Who do you think you work well with as a team right now? So talk to each individual. Who do you work well with right now? Start figuring out why they work well with those individuals. Put those people together maybe a little bit more and see if you can broaden it out. Split them up maybe a little bit more. That's a great way of doing it. And then the third question is, what areas are you not getting as much help as you think you should? One of the reasons that teamwork breaks down, I love that last question. I love it, I wrote it. What I really like about that is it highlights the fact that teamwork often breaks down because there isn't support. There isn't any caring, because it's like, okay, well, if I'm not going to get the support, if they're not going to give me the tools to do the job, why do I even bother? And so that's a horrible team member. That's going to kill the teamwork. That's going to erode the teamwork in the department. So you need to be asking how you can support them better, because if they're well supported, then you create a foundation that teamwork can be built on. So just a thought on that, and a few questions that kind of popped up to me. You're a manager, won't be there for a week, and I will be delegating on our team, which I used, Eslam's got a question for us here, to have a team which I used to have fun with and work with all the time, mates. How can I jump or act as a manager that time? So this is an instance where Eslam is being asked to cover for a manager who is out on vacation. However, Eslam came from that particular department and was peers with everybody. And so for those of you that get promoted through the ranks and all of a sudden you find yourself in a position where you are managing the team that you used to work alongside, have fun with, go out, have drinks with, all of that stuff. The key here is that you want to be crystal clear on what the expectations are. Okay, hey, you know what? So Cameron is gone for the week. It's good to be back here. Now I know that we need to tackle this, this, and this. So you get focused quickly on expectations. You've already built the rapport with them. All right, and I don't want to minimize that. I want you to leverage that as much as possible. But you have to come firmly down that that's what you're looking for. So how can we meet these expectations? Who's going to be doing this? So you create the plan right away. Talk the goals, then work the plan. All right, that gets you set up for them. All right. Now, if you have to have the hard discussion, hey, here's how you have that hard discussion when somebody gives a little bit of blowback or they want to take it easy because the two of you were friends in the past. And that is, you have that hard discussion. Hey, we need to get this done. I've worked this position. I've worked alongside you. I know you can do better than this. I know you can provide more than this. I know that this isn't a problem. So you leverage that expertise that you have with them towards, again, the expectations and the goals. So how you're talking to them is different because you're focused on one thing. Yes, you can joke it up all you want, as long as you're clear on the expectations and the plans to get there. That's the way you kind of tackle that, and that's the way to tackle it for anybody out there who gets promoted amongst the ranks and ends up managing their friends. You have to make that choice. You're going to either be their friend or you're going to be their boss. Now, you can be both, but you have to be able to draw that line where I might be celebrating somebody's birthday the night before and then writing the birthday person up the next morning. And you both have to be okay with that. Tough, but that's the way it is. You can be their boss or you can be their friend, one or the other. But talk through expectations, plans, work it that way. Use your experience to kind of undercut any issues that you have as far as them perhaps slacking off or trying to take advantage. Eleanor has the next question. It's, what if an employee is getting upset because she's not getting what she wants? I'm fair to all employees in giving assignments. Now she's threatening legal actions, retaliation, and whatnot. I stay away from the drama and avoid her. The more I avoid, the more it seems like she's trying to create drama. And Eleanor, I would say that you made a mistake in stepping away from her. All right, and it's natural, and I've personally done it as well. Stayed away from people that I don't get along with in the office. But what happens with that is it often gets worse, and you've seen the effects of it here. She's taken that space and she's filled it up with garbage, okay? I want you to get back in touch with the fact that you have been fair with all employees, that you have held everybody accountable to the same standards, and you can reiterate that to her. I hold everybody to that standard, and hey, you might not have heard about it because people don't want to talk about that sort of thing. But I have had those conversations before. but you need to keep leaning into that employee. It's almost more important to lean into, and it can create a whole other problem, lean into those employees that you're not getting along with, that you're having issues with. It's more important to be communicating with them and leaning in so that you can work through and get to the other side of whatever that disagreement is. You need to fill her with more information on what's going on, how you work. If she doesn't see how you're working and how you're holding other people accountable and how you are being fair, then she has nothing to go off of to change her mind on those sorts of things. And I mean, I know it's uncomfortable. I know it's difficult, and it's even more difficult now that you've allowed some space there. All right? But it can simply start off with the simple, hey, how's it going this morning? Hey, is there anything that I can help you with? And so you get through that. Now, what you're likely to get in this case, all right, so those employees that don't see the fairness, all right, and don't see the good in you, shall we say, is you will get snide remarks. You will get looks. You will not get what you want when you are saying, hey, is there anything I can help you with? What could I help you, how could I help you do a better job? That sort of thing. So you just need to be persistent. Keep doing what is right. Keep leaning into that communication, and it will all come around just fine. All right? Employees don't see as much as... Employees see more than we think they see in some instances, and don't see what as much as we think they see in other instances. And fairness is one of those ones where they simply don't see it because they have a personal attachment to it. That's one of the main reasons. But lean into that communication. Help her to see, and by doing that, I'm like, you don't want to be obvious about it, but by simply continuing to communicate with her, seeing that you're out in the department, her seeing who you're talking to, she will see that you're being fair. All right, and those issues that she has will start to go away. Now, of course, if she starts taking legal action, then obviously your HR department, your owner, whatever, is going to tell you that you need to distance yourself from that particular person, which I don't like, simply because I don't think it actually solves anything in the long run. But then, of course, you would have to separate. But until then, you need to lean into that communication and try to create that common ground where she understands where you're coming from, and perhaps you understand where she's coming from in regards to certain aspects of the team, to brainstorm for your department improvement. And Pat, that's the situation that I talk about all the time. All of the problems, nearly all of the problems that you deal with, all of the frustration, all of the things that you're concerned about as far as performance and everything else in regards to your job, the answers to those concerns are almost always housed somewhere on your team. They see it. The inspiration for the answer is down there. You just have to engage with them and get them talking to you about things so that you can mutually find that solution. Hey, if you're coming up trying to solve a problem, it's better to have 10 brains working on it than just yours. So engage the team. They have a ton of insight to give you that can fix some of those problems. Does not see her often. Yes. So in this case, Eleanor, you have to make the time. When you do get a chance to see her, then you have to make the time to definitely see her. All right? That's absolutely going to be a priority for you because you have a breakdown with this particular employee. And what happens is that breakdown starts spreading drama, as you see. So it is a priority for you to make the time to be supportive of her so that she can see that you are trying to be a good boss and that she might see that you're doing the same thing with other people as well. So make that a priority, and hopefully that dissipates down. Every leader, I want to be clear on this, Eleanor, every leader has dealt with a similar situation. I always tried to be very fair, but not everybody considered that I was being fair. And usually it was those individuals that were the most problematic that didn't think I was being fair. But they didn't see me writing up the other individual. Just like I wouldn't do it publicly for them, I didn't do it publicly for everybody. So over time, they could see the fairness that was there, and I had a bias towards that. The other thing to do in regards to this, Eleanor, and I should have brought it up earlier, is make sure that you are investing in the team that's around this particular individual as well. And the reason you do that is you are inoculating them against the drama that this person is trying to spread. And again, this is not going over the top with anything. That's simply making sure that you are checking in with them. You are seeing if they need any help. You are addressing their concerns. These are things that you should be doing for everybody. Don't get me wrong on that. but putting a little bit more focus on those particular individuals that this person is around can help inoculate them against that negativity. Tough situation, Eleanor. Let me know if that doesn't resonate with you, and we can keep kind of talking through some things here on this episode or on future episodes as well. So everybody that's still on there, I'm going to give one last shout out for tomorrow's episode, 12:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm going to be talking about The One Thing, with written by Gary Keller, a fantastic book, a lot of great stuff in there for you to take away, and I know you're going to like it, and it's going to be a valuable time for you. So tune in 12:30 p.m. tomorrow. In the meantime, if you have any other questions, frustrations, drop them in the comment section, and I'll actually deal with this one right now as well, since Laura came in here. She snuck one in just under the wire here, Laura. How does one deal with a micromanager? The way that you deal with a micromanager is the same way you deal with your own micromanagement. What I've seen work really well is to actually volunteer for updates, all right, which can be micromanaged in and of itself, but what you're doing is you're managing the micromanagement. So instead of your boss standing over your shoulder and looking over, you say, hey, you know what, I'll take that task, I'm going to do this and this. How about I give you an update at 2 o'clock today? Or how about I give you an update at 10 a.m. tomorrow? So you find a reasonable, short time frame to start off with and give them that update and be firm about it. If you said 2 o'clock, be there at 2 o'clock. They need to start building that trust. That's part of it. And then you give them the update on what's going on, you get their feedback, and then you move on from there and schedule the next thing. Okay, good, I'll take that. Let me work on this for a couple hours. Is it okay if I give you an update at 5 o'clock today? And so a few hours later, you give them another update. And so you're getting them off your back and you're managing their interruptions a little bit more. And what that does is that slowly but surely builds trust, and you will extend out those updates as much as possible. Now, the other thing that you want to do with a micromanager is you want to give them a sense of security. So, okay, I'll take this particular task. Is there an example of this, of what you've liked in the past? So you ask for an example. If you're a micromanaging boss, if you worry about your own micromanagement, give examples to people. Ask them if they have an example. Ask them if there's a go-to person. If I have any problems and you're in a meeting, is it okay for me to run over to Cameron and ask his opinion on something? So you let them know, if you're going to run into problems, what you're going to do about them. So updates, and then how you're going to address problems if they come up. Those are the two ways to start turning it around. And what you do is you just keep extending those things out as much as possible when you build that trust. Start there. That's the first step, and then see where that takes you. Hopefully you can break that, Laura, because a micromanaging boss is, my goodness, that's about as demoralizing as it gets. And when they start talking about traits, micromanagement is the #1 reason that people leave organizations when they have a bad boss that's demonstrating micromanagement. That's the worst. That's worse than anger. A boss that's angry, micromanagement is even above that, because people ask the reason of why they even exist. Why did you hire me if you're just going to do the job? So be mindful of that in your own leadership. But updates and how you're going to deal with problems, that's how you start building that trust, Laura. Start small and then build on it from there. Hope that helps. All right, everybody. If you have any other questions, drop down in the comments. You can always, if you want to keep anonymous, direct message me on Facebook or send me an email, cm@CameronMorsey.com, and I will keep you anonymous, and we'll get it on the next episode. But see you tomorrow, 12:30 p.m. The One Thing with Gary Keller. It's going to be a fantastic book read. Thanks. Bye-bye.